Alrighty, folks, as mentioned in the daily financial news for April 14th, I took away 7 lessons learned from the amazing book Set for Life. Well, folks, I have the author. And oh, by the way, we are going to have a special guest appearance here momentarily. We've got the author, Scott Trench, so that we could talk about these 7 lessons, see if there's any that I missed, and we can just riff on them. Because as you know, I do not agree with all of them. Scott, you got a special guest with us, huh?
Yeah, here. This is Taylor Trench. She is 2 weeks old, maybe
Taylor.
2.5 weeks. I know. She just spit up a little bit, so we'll clean that off.
That's all right.
So, but yeah,
Look at you being a good dad.
She's wonderful. So she's been the best you can ask for with one of these is snuggly, and she's done a great job sleeping on a schedule. So we're very lucky that she,
Wow.
eats and sleeps on a 2-3 hour schedule, like clockwork. So can't complain.
You are lucky. That I remember my daughter Teresa not doing that very well. It took a while.
Her big sister loves to pat her and to put a blanket on her, make her cozy. So can't ask for more than that. We're very, very lucky. I'm a lucky guy.
Well, it sounds like you are a girl dad. Kobe Bryant would be impressed. So girl dad,
Yeah.
Thank you.
2 girls. Yep.
Nice. Well, let's get into it. Again, Set for Life is an amazing book. It's been out for quite a while. Do you remember when that was released?
Yes, we released it in April 2017.
Yeah, so it's been around 8 years or so. I'm going to go through some lessons. Again, we'll riff on each one, maybe have you highlight as the author if there's any I missed or frankly got wrong. But the first lesson, I think, is very important, and I wish more people really felt it. And I think there's a lot of people that are just tuned out and don't believe it's possible. But the first lesson I took from it, Scott, was financial freedom is possible. I think that's a message that more and more people need to hear, but more importantly, need to believe. Was that one of your goals for the book?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that more specifically, I think that financial freedom is possible for someone who's starting out with nothing at a median income level, right? I do believe that the starting point to journeying towards financial freedom is for someone with a median income, and that the work needed to get to a median income involves graduation from high school and or college and the development of a skill that is reasonably respected by the marketplace. But this is achievable for anyone who can get to the point that a teacher, for example, can get to with their salary. And we've interviewed a number of teachers who have become financially free. But yes, that with that caveat that if you can get to a median income, there is a path available to financial freedom for you. You may not like it. It may not be. It may be much more work and much more sacrifice and a little longer than you'd hope. But you can get there.
No, I love that little nuance of going that extra level deeper because I agree with you. I wish more and more people realize you don't have to be a top 1% or even a top 10% earner. You can get there on a median income. Oh, Taylor, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. We all love babies. So again, I love that little nuance and twist. So let's get to number 2. And this is one that, again, I agree with. Start early and be consistent. Save consistent. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. And I would even, the way I kind of phrase it, I think in the book is that the journey begins with frugality. So again, this is for a median, and I'm going to reinforce this point a million times throughout the book. This is for a median income earner, starting out from a standing start with little to no assets. This is not an entrepreneur or super high income earner, but for that median income earner, the journey begins with frugality. It must start there. It's the most important lever. It's tax advantaged, and it begins the grind. You don't finish the play, you don't save your way to millions, but that's how you start the game, and it produces so many advantages.
Yeah, folks, you know that I talk about my wealth formula all the time. It all starts with growing disposable income. I love this. We will get to that topic here in one of the 7 in a minute. But if you haven't already got the book, we're already 2 through 7. You should be stopping this, going to Amazon or Bigger Pockets and buying Set for Life because, again, it is a good read and something you need to get after. Let's go to number 3. This is the one I will admit that I'm not a huge fan of. So we may have a little bit of disagreement here. Diversify your investments. Tell us what you meant by that one.
Well, I actually think I think Set for Life argues the opposite for the.
Oh, good.
I think we argue for concentration, or I argue for concentration in there. And specifically, my favorite form of concentrated investment is the house hack, right?
Yes.
And so I use an example in the book where I say, okay, look, diversification for, average Joe, who is my character, median income earner in America, in there. Diversification for average Joe with a standing start with no assets ensures that he gets nowhere fast. Diversification for a persona, I forget the name of who I gave this persona in there, but someone who's near in 60 and very close to retirement, does not have a long-term income stream, ensures that they do not live in destitution and live destitute in retirement. So it's a requirement at the end of the journey to diversify, but it's not, it ensures that you will not achieve financial freedom quickly if you do. And so I think, my argument in Set for Life is that the person looking to go all out on the journey to financial freedom should concentrate heavily in investments like house hacks or a set of serial house hacks, real estate, and or 100% stock portfolios. And then, I don't really finish this in Set for Life because I wasn't there at that time on it in terms of the end state portfolio on it. But I would argue that you should diversify into something at a future point once you've made your, first several million.
I love that nuance, and with that twist that we are in 100% alignment. I think where people get rich, I call it the wealth formula, is you got to become elite at something, right? Pick your thing, do it well, get better at it incrementally. It takes some time, but at some point, diversify, like the 6-year-old.
And I'd also layer in something I wasn't as familiar with at that point in time, and I touched on it a little bit, but I would argue that this concept of buying small businesses absolutely belongs in that category of index funds or entrepreneurship or all out real estate. That's a concentrated investment too, and that's something that I think if I was starting over again today and knew what I've learned over the last 10, 15 years, that would have been close to the top of the list as well.
No, I think that's really interesting. It's like you, it's not something I've done on my journey, but now that I've been here for a while, it's like, I could see why that would be advantageous. Obviously it helps with taxes and it just accelerates lots of things. So I agree with that. And I've said many times, and I'll say here, I think house hacking is the cheat code to wealth. If you're getting started, it's the cheat code. So I totally agree.
I don't know how else, if you're not going to buy a business or become an entrepreneur, or you don't have one of these high-powered income careers, I don't see. It's really hard to figure out how you're going to do it with their house hacking. And then you talk to these kids who are 23, 24, 25, and they're like, "Oh, I'm closer to $1 million than zero at this point, and I save $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month." I mean, it's just a complete cheat code.
No question. Yeah, there's a couple that I had speak at my last event in Vegas, day 2, first session, PTO for life. They are on their 9th house hack. That's all they've done. That's all they have, right? They've just done serial house hacks. They're both financially free and house hacking. So again, check them out. PTO for life on Instagram would be, it's a great story. They're wonderful people, Suleika and her husband. There you go. I want to say Jeff, but I might be wrong. Sorry if I got the first name wrong. Here, next one I got for you is make informed financial decisions. Don't guess. Don't invest in emotions. Make informed decisions.
Yeah, this is self-education, right? I think that I've learned way more about investing and personal finance from the dozens, maybe hundreds, certainly hundreds of books I've consumed at this point in my life than I did from any college class or any paid programming or whatever around there. I guess the books are paid programming, but that's been a real source of expertise and confidence in my decision making over the years. So, absolutely.
Yeah. The next one is tried and true. Live within your means. I will add to that. Don't expand your means as your income goes up. But again, live within your means.
Absolutely. I would say I will argue that there's some in the financial freedom space who kind of think about this like, I'm going to live super frugally forever. And there's things I relate to in terms of efficiencies in there, but that's not what I want.
Aspire to. It's not what you aspire to. No.
I don't want to live off of a $40,000 a year spending level. I want something more than that. But if I spend a minority of the cash flow that my portfolio generates, then as I add more to the portfolio and as that expands and outpaces inflation, that begins to allow me to expand my lifestyle pretty guilt-free. And I'll say the impact of that here at 34 has been absolutely outlandish in ways that I would not have predicted. I could not have seen when I was writing Set for Life. But it's been pretty remarkable to see how, oh my gosh, the rent just came in this month on there. And now that piles up, and I can, I have so many options. I can invest it. I can spend a portion of it, and that's still buying me more luxuries than I ever really thought that I would have.
Yeah. The snowball is real. And you know, I talk about it. The other thing I like to kind of position, it's just seasons, right? You don't have to live on that 40K salary forever, right? But if you do it for a season, call it 5, call it 10 years, the output on the other side is going to be impressive, to your point. All right, folks, we've got 2 more. Again, go to Amazon, get the book Set for Life. Go to Bigger Pockets, get the book Set for Life. This is one that's important, and one that I frankly forgot that I did at the beginning. Because when you get to the end, maybe you don't do it as often, but it was set financial goals and track your progress.
Oh yeah. This is one that I've done pretty religiously for most of my adult life at this point. I use a journal from a self-help guru called Darren Hardy called Living Your Best Year Ever. And I got introduced to that by a guy I worked for, a neighbor, back in college in the summers between college sessions. And this guy had built a phenomenal business, lives a wonderful lifestyle, has a helicopter, all those kind of cool toys and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he just said, look, I just do this journal every year and set my goals with it. And there's nothing particularly special about the journal. I'm Living Your Best Year Ever is the one I use, but there's plenty others like it out there. And it's just a matter of going through some exercise to frame what you want, setting the most important 3 actions, 3 top level goals that get you to it. And then what I like about this one is there's a little section called the vortex, which is like all the other stuff you got to do. I got to file taxes, Yeah. Okay. So that's not one of my top level goals, but I got to knock that out this week. Right.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of, the rigor that goes along with that is super helpful. And my what I've been really consistent with is Sunday nights in particular. I've often gone through spurts where I've done it every day. I've done like a daily log that kind of comes and goes, but the weekly one has been consistent for years and years in a row. I've probably missed 15 weeks and 10 years of this goal setting regimen. And I do it with my wife now as well.
There you go.
In a Bigger Pockets Money podcast episode, what our process is like there. And that's been super helpful because it aligns on, hey, here's where we're trying to go. Here's what our day-to-day life will look like. Here's what our family will look like. Here's Taylor.
Yay.
On there, and it's remarkable to see how the progress is made towards that over the coming years. It doesn't seem like it week to week, and then you pop up and you're like, oh, wow, for 4 or 5 years we've accomplished huge chunks of that vision.
And again, it's called Living Your Best Life Ever.
Living Your Best Year Ever.
Oh, Living Your Best Year Ever.
I got a stack of like 10 of these completed journals in my closet.
That's awesome. So you can go look back and look at where you were and where you are now.
Yeah, and I can see all the times what I was. My pattern the last year has been I set really ambitious goals. I get partway through them for the first half of the week, and then I restart them the next week. And you know what? That's fine because I never go a full week without making progress towards those goals. So the actual act of having the journal, even though I don't complete every week, regrounds me each week toward moving towards those goals. So it's not about perfection, but it's pretty consistent. So that is a huge key, I think.
I like it.
Helping me achieve what I want to achieve. So
I love that. All right. So number 7 that I have, and again, we'll let you kind of throw in others that I may have missed or skipped. The number 7 one for me is seek support and motivation. This was a big one that frankly I ignored. I was the lone wolf. I tried to do it myself. And I now appreciate community, getting in the networks with people going the same direction, for support, for, commiserating, whatever it happens to be. The importance of being around this people going the same direction for support and motivation is huge. And frankly, something I missed for the first 5 years.
Yeah, I'd say that, I mean, that's obviously very critical. A couple of things that have been really helpful in my personal life on this front. One is I joined a mastermind group with local real estate entrepreneurs back in 2014. Free mastermind. This was a group of entrepreneurs who met at 7:00 in the morning on Thursdays once a month to talk about business problems. And they were very gracious to invite the employee, the Dish Network financial analyst to their session while they talked about growing their real estate businesses. And then, of course, joining Bigger Pockets really introduced me to that community. One thing I will say though is I think there's a lot of folks out there that kind of talk about how you got to ditch your friends in there,
Mm,
and that was never a thing for me. Like I never stopped hanging out with my rugby friends or my college friends or those. I made new friends and continued to layer those in, but it wasn't like I had to like leave people behind to achieve
mm.
goals or whatever. I never really understood that particular advice.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's actually something I say, so we can riff on that a little bit. I talk about firing your friends. And really, I'm very specific, right? There are some friends, at least they were in my network, that didn't want to see you change, didn't want to see you grow. They were pulling you back. They were, just for a simple example, right? Maybe you wanted to stop drinking alcohol, but they just wanted to keep taking you to the bar, right? And they're not done with that life yet. Sometimes you got to, and firing them doesn't mean cut them out of your life, but it just means know when you're around them, protect your bigger goals.
mm,
And I think there are a lot of people that are energy suckers, especially in the beginning. If I talk to a lot of people that want to get on this financial freedom journey, but their network doesn't. They want to keep spending. They want to keep YOLOing life. They want to travel to Europe on a moment's notice or whatever it is. And if you're going to start this journey, you got it's hard. It's different. And I've certainly one of those guys that push the concept of being willing to fire your friend. So something I certainly have pushed.
Yeah, I look. Let's use the rugby guys for example, right? So
Sure.
rugby has three halves, right? The first half, the second half, and then the third half is where you go out to the bar afterwards and have a
Yeah.
really right.
I was wondering where the third half was.
And
Now
so
I get it. It's like
and
the
so let's
19th
let,
hole.
like phase of life, right? I used to really enjoy the third half, and the third half got even more painful than the first and second half as you get older. And now like these guys, I have a fantasy football league with them. We hang out, and
Nice.
I'm gonna invite one of them over this week, and we'll do a mountain bike. We'll do a little bit of mountain bike ride. I didn't go with those friends on a recent trip that they were scheduling that was going to involve a large amount of heavy. Like it's not like I fired my friends. I was just like I'm not gonna like I'm in a different
Yeah.
phase of life and I'm not going to
Yeah.
do those things with you. But I'm still friends with those folks.
Yeah.
I still like to hang out with them and invite
Right.
them around. I'm not going. I'm not going out in downtown Denver
Right.
anymore on this. And
There you
it's
go.
not a firing of the friends. It's just a phase of life thing. And I think in 3 to
I
5
love
years,
that.
several of them will be in a similar phase of life, and maybe they'll move
Yeah.
to the burbs here, and we'll be full on dad with a cookout. But I just like that's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
I try not to let any of my relationships wane from various stages of life. At least not with the guys I was
Oh yeah.
close with, or
I
the
love that.
guys
I
or
love
girls I
that.
was close with.
I love that. So those were the 7 things I kind of took away from the book. Are there others that maybe I've missed or glossed over that you really want people to hear? Because again, people got to go get the book Set for Life.
Yeah, look, I think that the formula is there's a lot of like kind of mentality stuff out there. And what I was going for was a practical, like, here's a step-by-step guide, right? Save the first 25 grand and know it won't be fun on your third, $50,000-$65,000 salary. What that will mean is packing lunch and penny pinching and being really frugal. And it kind of sucks for that first year to 18 months. That's
Yep.
the entry point, right? And once you have a little bit of runway, some cash, cold hard cash saved up, that begins to multiply your options.
Yep.
And the options multiply because of 2 factors, right? One is the amount of cash in your bank account, which allows you to do things. By the way, if I'm looking to invest with somebody in various like little ventures out there, the first thing I wonder is, does cash come into this person's life or not? Right? And it's a requirement for me. If they won't disclose it or talk about it, that's fine. We don't have to do any business together around it. But I find that there's a super correlation over many years, a huge correlation between people who have the ability to have cash come into their lives and those who don't. There's a million reasons why cash can't come in. Bad luck, whatever. I can't invest with people with bad luck, for example. But there's only one reason why cash accumulates, right? And there's a sustained spread between what comes in and what goes out. And that's really critical. And that's the hard work that years need to go by, on there. So that's the first part. The second phase I have is the $25,000 to $100,000 journey, right? Now, once we have started to accumulate cash, those options begin to multiply. My favorite 2 options are the house hack, which drastically reduces housing expenses, and then the job hop. I believe that it's hard to move toward financial freedom on a median income for most. And unless you're in a special circumstance like military or teacher or those types of things, which, by the way, those have interesting advantages in many cases. Like summers, you can go repair properties, for example, or get another job as a teacher. As a military, you get certain benefits that you can apply to real estate, like the VA loan. You often get career starter loans at really low interest rates. So there's certain advantages to those situations. But if you're not in one of those situations, then the job hop becomes important. There's got to be a path to making, at least low, hopefully bumping up against mid six figures, like that $100,000 to $250,000 a year range. If there's not, then we got to be thinking about entrepreneurship, I think. So it's really about using that. And that low spending is so critical. It's not just the cash, but if let's say I make $65,000 a year and I spend $60,000 a year, so I say 5,000, right? If I want to go, and I suppose that I get a job offer from Mike, and Mike says, "Hey Scott, I'm going to pay you 50 grand a year, but I'll give you another 50 as a bonus if you can bring in 200K in revenue for my business," right? Well, and let's say it's a 50-50 shot at that job is worth $75,000 a year, risk adjusted, right? But you can't take that job if you spend 60. You can take it if you spend 30. And that power hides opportunities from so many people who optimize their income for just that base salary component.
I agree.
I think that's a huge leg up that the low spender has. And I think there's a tight correlation, especially in the early part of one's career, between that between a low spending and the income opportunities that come for somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third part, once you get past 100 grand and you start moving towards closer to that million, now investing becomes a much more meaningful part of one's portfolio, and that becomes the skill that one has to develop and maintain for the rest of one's life. And that's the fun part. That was what I was really ambitious to get to the whole time, and what I enjoy most now is managing my investment portfolio and thinking through all those things. It's a really good intellectual exercise, I believe.
There you go. Well, folks, we've got the author of Set for Life, CEO of Bigger Pockets, and of course, the star of the show,
That's right.
There you go. So cute.
Taylor Trench.
There you go. Baby number 2, girl dad. Scott, I appreciate you, man. Take care.
Thank you, Mike.